Hey there, creative people, Sandy here. Have you ever looked at sets of metal design stamps like these and thought they were cool and interesting, and maybe they even had designs you liked, but you wondered what you could do with them? Well, BB Craft sent me this set, and today I'm going to show you a bunch of ideas for creative ways you can use metal design stamps. Welcome to another Friday Findings video at keepsakecrafts.net. So this is the set of design stamps that I got from BB Craft. I think they're pretty cool. They have a lot of detail. If you look at just this little tree stamp, which is not even 3/8 of an inch. I guess the whole thing is maybe 3/8 of an inch across. There's a lot of detail, lots of little swirls and really pretty stamps. Some of the designs are simpler, like an arrow, but even so, you've got the fletchings down here, the individual ones. Some are more bold and some are more delicate, like this one. I'm not sure what that's called, but it's kind of a botanical thing. Or you might just have a more graphic representation of a bear or a heart. The owl, he's really cute. One of my favorites, of course, is the kitty cat. I'll be using that later. What else have we got? Let's see. Just to go through them all, a dragonfly, a star, a cross, an anchor, and the infinity sign. And you might look at a set like this and say, what am I going to do with that? They are made for a few different things. They're made for stamping on metal. You can also stamp on leather. I'm not familiar with leather stamping, but I do wonder just how well some of the really fine detail will come through on leather. Maybe those of you who've done leather work can chime in and let us know. That's just what it says in the product listing. And of course, being a polymer clayer, I think of ways I can use these on polymer clay as well. Now here's an example of me playing with this on polymer clay, and here are a few examples of me playing with this on metal. If you want to learn one or the other, I must tell you they both take a bit of practice to get good at them. This was my first one. It's an utter mess. This was my second one. It's slightly less of a mess. This was my practice piece. You can tell I was eager to get on. I did like 3 practice punches and then said, okay, fine. This one came out actually not bad, except I kind of did a poor job on the letter I. You can use these in conjunction with letter stamps, by the way, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. This is a set that, there is a similar one that on the BB Craft site for about $11. This set of 12 is $15, so it's not bad. I mean, they're nice. They're metal. Like I said, they're made for stamping on metal. You pound on them with a brass mallet. Mine's probably a little light, but they hold up well. I used just about all of these and they seemed to do well. They gave nice impressions. Like I said, a lot of them had a lot of detail and I was impressed with the quality of the images that I got. If you're stamping on metal or you're stamping on polymer clay, I don't know about leather, but I can tell you those two things both require some practice, but both are completely different animals. They just are different in what you have to pay attention to for the most part in order to get a nice clean image. So decide what you want to do and then practice. Now for metal, you can use a sandbag. That just helps dampen the sound, and what you absolutely need is a bench block. You should take better care of your bench block than I do, because any lines, divots on the bench block are going to come through to the back of your piece. So if that matters to you, you need to do a better job of taking care of your bench block than I do. You absolutely must do this kind of metal stamping on a bench block. And you don't want to use your chasing hammer. You want to use something that gives you a dead blow, which means something that isn't going to go boing after you hit it. When that happens, you end up getting double stamped images instead of a nice clean stamping. So a brass hammer, and it's recommended that you use one that's at least a pound. I think this is 8 ounces, so I should probably, if I want to do a lot of this, I should probably invest in a heavier hammer. Another thing that's handy is a rawhide mallet, or this one happens to also have a plastic mallet on the other side, which is perfect, and I'll show you why in a minute. And then you need some kind of metal to stamp on. It can be any metal that is soft enough to take an impression. You don't want really hard metals or hardened metals, but this is copper, brass, aluminum, gold-filled, silver-filled, sterling silver. Any of those, as long as it's soft enough to take an impression, you can stamp in it. If you try making impressions in hardened metals, you may damage your stamps. Now, I am no expert at this. I just kind of dabble. These discs, by the way, you can often buy them. This I just got at the craft store some time ago, just little 3/4-inch discs. I think it had 6 discs in here for a few dollars. It wasn't much. This is one I was practicing dapping on. But you can buy them like this. You can buy them online, Fire Mountain Gems. If you want to learn more details about the basics of stamping on metal, I will give you a link to Lisa Niven Kelly's really great tutorial at Beaducation. It's like 40 minutes and she gives you so much great information there. One of the things she also provides there is a link where you can print out this sheet. And this is kind of useful. It shows different sizes. It's got measurements. But this is the thing that I wanted, the circle divider, because you can place your piece in here. Take a Sharpie and a ruler, and then you can draw right on your blank guidelines. So if you're going to make a mandala type design, or anything that you want spaced evenly, you can just draw it right on your metal blank. And this is really useful. You can use tape. Tape will help you in a couple ways. Tape can help you to get just to hold something in place so it doesn't move around on you. On this little piece, this was a blank that I got at artbeads.com. It came in a 2-pack, and it was just a little stamping blank. And you can see I used the heart and the kitty cat on this one, plus the letter I from my letter set, to just make a cute little thing. I could actually curve this if I wanted. It's soft enough to bend a little bit and make it into a bracelet. A couple pieces of cord on either side. The thing that really intrigued me about this set was using these things to make designs all their own. Mandalas. Like I said, this was the first one I did. Notice when you get close to the edge, things can really distort, especially if you start out doing it on the edge. And take a look at what happened here. I'll flip it over so you maybe can see it more dramatically. I did that arrow stamp. I thought it would make an interesting border all the way around this design. But what happened is that in some cases it actually pierced the metal, but in all the cases it pushed it out because it was the very first thing I stamped. The blank was still soft. Do remember that the more you stamp on it, the more hardened this metal is going to get. So like this was one of the first things I stamped, which I thought was interesting. I mean, you could say, oops, or you could say, design opportunity. So I'll just give you a couple of basics. First of all, if it's not flat, can you see that this is slightly shaped like a potato chip? It's not flat. This is where your rawhide or your plastic or a rubber mallet comes in to just flatten it out a little. And now that's, you can hear the difference. It's nice and flat, so it's going to behave. And as Lisa mentions in her class, the complex design shapes can be a little bit trickier to stamp than something simple like, the letter O or the letter I, but the owl can be pretty complex. So I would strongly suggest that you go to that site and learn about it. But the basics are that you don't want to hold this up too high. You want to hold it down low. That way you have a good grip on it. I've got my middle finger here. It's actually resting right on the block and the metal, holding this right in place. And then for these complex ones, she gives tip for, instead of just doing one blow straight down, which you can do with simpler stamps, but this little owl has so much detail, she suggests tilting it, like this, but ever so slightly. So north, south, east, west, just a little bit. So I'll show you what that looks like, and you can watch her do it better if you go to the video, but it's... And one more for good measure. And that's not great. I could have done more. Can you see on the left side? Sometimes you can snap it back into, I don't think I can on this one. Some of the designs it'll snap right back into place and you can re-stamp. Most of the time you won't be able to. There's a lot of detail in that little owl. One thing I was really pleased about with this set of stamps that I got from BB Craft is that they are marked to keep your orientation straight. So it also has the little owl here stamped on it, and it has the name of the company so that I know when I'm holding it, the owl is facing. If I stamp it, I'm going to be looking at him right side up. You'll have to look at them. Some of them are a little different. I think the cat's actually the other way around, but you just have to figure it out. Yeah, the cat, actually, if I'm looking at the stamping and the name, when I stamp it, it will be upside down. So you just have to know that, but it is helpful to have these. So if these are all laid out on a table, if you carefully set them down, you won't have to keep fumbling through every single one to see what design it is that you want next. You can also double stamp things. This actually I did by mistake. I was trying to fit a heart in and it slipped on me because, like I said, the thing was getting hardened and it was getting curled and the heart slipped and stamped over the arrow. And I said, well, oh, perfect. So there's a lot you can do with these. You just need to experiment and play. But there is an art to stamping just enough and not too much. Like for this, with these little letter stamps, you can see here I stamped way too hard. I think I was getting used to stamping these like this cat. In fact, I did the heart a little too hard. I don't know if you can see on this right edge, I caught a little bit of the outer edge of the stamp there. That's not too bad, but this one's pretty bad. I got like almost the whole ring around the eye there. I probably needed to do one blow for this. Nice and straight and up and down, and I would have been fine. Another cool trick is that you can see that the interior of these is blackened, so you really can see the designs where it isn't on this, and all you have to do is color it in with a Sharpie. Then you can use a Pro Polish pad or some steel wool to polish the black out. If you use steel wool, what you end up getting is this brushed effect. So you have to decide if you want that, which is what I did here, but I didn't really do a thorough job. Let's see if we can get this. See more of a brushed effect. But now you can see more of the detail of the owl, and you can see more of the detail that I didn't stamp cleanly. And then the Pro Polish pads will get it shiny and remove. See how that Sharpie is going away? And it's not getting the brushed effect. So there are loads of variations on this. I am barely even scratching the surface. But that is one thing you can do with these stamps, is make personalized jewelry by stamping on metal cuff bracelets, pendants, charms, make wine glass charms. Oh, that's what I started to say and I didn't finish, that I actually used, it was this bit of painter's tape, and laid it right here. It helped hold this in place and also helped me have a straight line when I was stamping. So those came out pretty straight. So you can use the designs to bracket or surround an initial, or you can also like flip the designs around, maybe stamp a row of hearts and then flip the heart around the other way so that you get a pattern that's filled in. Get yourself some like 24 gauge metal. I got this on Amazon ages ago. And practice, and yeah, probably practice more than I did before you go into your blanks. Copper is great because it's inexpensive, so you can just practice on it. So here's a polymer clay mandala I was just messing around and playing with. I antiqued it with black paint after baking it, just so you could see some of the detail a little bit better. You can use polymer clay in the same way as I just said to make mandalas, to make personalized pendants, charms, etc., to just make an overall pattern. But the things that you learn in the metal stamping are completely different from what you need to learn to do it in polymer clay. Now here's a cool trick. So many times I've suggested using these acrylic blocks for polymer clay, and I always say to not have the etched lines down. If your blocks have these etched lines, which they do, you know, make sure that you don't have it facing your clay because you don't want it to be imprinted in your clay. In this case, it's actually a really helpful thing. I don't know if you're going to be able to pick it up with the camera, but I'm going to just flatten this out. I kind of like this better than cutting it out with a cutter because I just get a nice soft edge. And I don't know if you can see it, but now I have that cross-hatched line in here. It's not exactly centered, but it gives you a guideline. The problem with stamping on polymer clay, let's try this little bear, is that it's really easy to go too far. You have to just get a feel for your individual stamps and the softness of your clay, because if you press too hard, well, there, I have a beautiful image of the bear, but I also have a beautiful ring around him from the stamp. Maybe that's what you want. Probably not. You probably just want the bear. And that's pretty good. Maybe not hard enough. Let's try it a little harder, but not too much. So you can see that it takes a little bit of practice to get it so that you don't have those edges. Those three actually, well, that one's a little too light. Those two came out pretty good. And there are loads and loads of these design stamps out there. There are whole sets that are, oh, he's cute, especially when stamped properly. But again, press just a little bit too hard. Oh, that wasn't hard enough. So you can see where you really need to practice, and you probably need to practice a little. Yeah, see, now I've got a nice deep impression of the owl, but a faint halo of the round edge of the stamp. So it's just going to take some practice to get a feel for, again, the squishiness of your clay, the depth of your stamp. Something like this could actually be trickier. Let's see. So you do need to practice holding it straight up and down. That one actually came out pretty good. But where it's got just a straight edge, it would be very easy to simply rock it a little bit too much to one side, and then you have that. Of course, with clay, I mean, who wants to have to take time to do this? You could actually smooth it out a little. So I was really pleased with these design stamps, and at first the assortment seemed random, but then the more I looked at them, the more I thought of different ways of using them and combining them. Like this infinity symbol would be just a really pretty border around something. See that? You can also purposely only use part of the stamp. You can do this in metal or in the clay. And like just get, although again it will take some practice to get it just right. But like I'm just getting the top of that heart, and if I lined them up well and did it evenly, I'd end up with a nice little row of scallops. Although you may look at this and just wonder what on earth you could do with it all. With a little bit of practice and playing and imagination, I suspect you can come up with all kinds of ideas. So you could tell whole stories with these, spell out sentences the way people do with just emojis. So many creative possibilities.